Welcome to the BEASTwriter Family, where social media engagement is encouraged. I'm your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be discussing and looking ahead, as we always like to do in the BWF, in regards to the upcoming free agents, what the 49ers should do in the draft, how this season has been played out up to this point, what the team's needs are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. Obviously, we are talking about the boundary cornerback. That's a huge weakness, but it's no surprise here in the BWF. We've been talking about this since 2017, 18, ever since Kyle Shanahan came on board. So we're going to go ahead and talk about all these topics of discussion, but the main one here, based on the headline, is obviously what they're going to do with Azeez Al-Shaair and obviously D.J. Jones. Both those players are playing tremendously up to this point. The question remains to be seen if you had to choose and prioritize one over the other, because they don't have very much cap space to begin with as it currently stands. Now, that can all change once Jimmy Garoppolo has moved on or traded, or does he come back? I don't know, but he has $26.4 million that the 49ers are on the hook for next season. Obviously, all non-guaranteed, but what's going to happen with that? We don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea what's going to happen with his contract situation, because at the end of the day, again, he's owed, what, $26 million plus based on the cap. And then I think there was only like 1 point something in dead money. So you take the difference of that. But let's say in excess $25 million. That would easily allow them to sign DJ Jones and both Azeez and Al-Shaair. Azeez and Al-Shaair. It doesn't make sense. Azeez Al-Shaair and DJ Jones. But at the end of the day, it's almost like this. It's like, okay, well, if you're a GM and then you're looking at the draft and you can... I wouldn't say that DJ Jones is not a favorable premium position, but we talked about this in the BWF, how, in my opinion, everything starts up front. All right, I think games are won down in the trenches, and you need to solidify the line on both sides in order to be successful. For anyone to be successful, would be skilled players, would be the secondary, and so forth. It has a domino effect on the second and third levels, or the skilled player positions, whether you play running back, or wide receiver, tight end, whatever the case may be. It comes down to scheme fit. It also comes down to what makes the most sense for the San Francisco 49ers financially and what they have invested so far. Because again, when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, they really pride themselves on building up their homegrown talent outside of DeForest Buckner. But that's part of the equation here, right? I said it since day one in the BWF. It's a Beast receipt. You guys can cash that in. And people were, oh, Beast, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a hater. You think that, Javon Kinlaw, we're going to get Javon Kinlaw on the draft. It's like, I'm not so high on Javon Kinlaw. And they're like, oh, no, he's a freak. I'm like, dude, people call me a freak at the gym. So what? Like, what does that mean? We're seeing it today. All right, so check the Beast receipts. I said that they should have resigned DeForest Buckner. They could have done it because he would have been playing on the fifth-year option anyways. By some time, I said they should have wiped their hands clean of Richard Sherman, saving $12.1 million off the books after that Super Bowl season, because again, he lost a step from years prior, and I thought he got burned throughout the 2019 season. Called it out here on the BEASTwriter Family channel. And I said they held on to him 1 year too long after they kept him on board. What you could have did is you could have got rid of Sherman, which you did a year later, but you should have did that in real time, what I said, and then would have rolled that money over into Buckner. And people would say, oh, he's not worth Aaron Donald money. Well, I mean, come on. Is Cam Hayward for the Pittsburgh Steelers worth Aaron Donald money? I mean, how many Aaron Donalds are there, right? There's only one Aaron Donald. But at the end of the day, what's the closest thing to Aaron Donald? Hard to argue DeForest Buckner isn't. Hard to argue Cam Hayward isn't. BWF grades don't lie. All right? So, all is for naught. Buckner is salty about it. You guys saw what he had to say when they played the Colts. And now it's a game of what do the 49ers do with their defensive front seven? Okay. Sticking with the defensive line, if it was my opinion, and if I was running the show, I would select DJ Jones over Azeez Al-Shaair simply because of a number of different reasons. The first reason that I want to stick with DJ Jones over Azeez Al-Shaair is, in the NFL, in my opinion, consistency is key. And if you're not consistently good, you are not going to have and hold leverage in contract negotiations. Now, is Azeez Al-Shaair outperforming his contract, $855,000 this year? Absolutely. As an undrafted free agent at a FAU? Absolutely. No question about it. Is he playing at an all-pro level? Absolutely. First-team all-pro level. Azeez Al-Shaair is playing at a first-team all-pro level in my grading system. 7.7 out of a 10. 7.3 is the cutoff for first-team all-pro. He's playing at a 7.7. Pro Bowl is 6.5 out of 7. All right, 6.5 to 7. That's the gauge for Pro Bowl talent in my BWF grading system. He's at a 7.7. DJ Jones, on the other hand, 8.1. DJ Jones is graded at an 8.1 out of a 10. All right. So you have DJ Jones graded 8.1, Azeez Al-Shaair graded at 7.7. Now it comes down to what I like to call a one-trick pony. Is DJ Jones a one-trick pony? Is he scheme dependent? The question to both those questions is no. He is not a one-trick pony, and he's not scheme dependent. What I mean by that is a one-trick pony is a guy who can either do one thing and one thing only, whether it's rushing the passer or being a good run defender. Right? Usually you have guys that can do one thing really good, but the other one he kind of lacks. So that's not a complete player in my BWF grading system. When it comes to DJ Jones, since entering the NFL back in 2017 out of Ole Miss as a 6th round pick, he has been consistently good, very underrated. In fact, I even tweeted this out. I mean, you can go back and look at my Beast receipts and the tweets. And I said, man, this guy's going to be the real deal. And people really caught on once he started. 2019, I think, is when majority of fans are like, yeah, DJ Jones is the truth. He's the truth. Number 93 is the real deal. What DJ Jones does is it frees up the second level backers in that 4-3 base defense because he can 2-gap. Typically in a 4-3 defense, no matter what kind of front you're playing in, depending on the techniques, obviously the 49ers play in a wide 9. So you're allowing the guards and centers and tackles to pinch. When they pinch inside, more times than not, the interior defensive linemen are going to be double teamed. All right? They're going to be double teamed, and when you're double teamed, you got to really get off those blocks. You got to shed the blocks. You got to learn how to stack and shed and have a read and react style of defense and be in a defensive technique to where you can make plays no matter where you're stacking and where you're shedding. You got to peek behind the backfield, because if you don't peek, you don't know where the ball carrier is going to be running. If it's a one cut back system in a zone blocking scheme, or if it's a power based run where that vision is of the utmost importance, like a Najee Harris, who, by the way, ranks number 5 in the NFL in rushing behind that horrid offensive line. No offense to Dan Moore or Kendrick Green, but my gosh. Anyways, so you guys can see where DJ Jones has been really coming into his own. DJ Jones, to me, is playing at a very high level that Javon Hargrave was playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers before he signed that big money contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you guys want to look at an apples to apples comparison, look at what Javon Hargrave got when he left the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I have grades on, obviously, Javon Hargrave too, because I cover every NFL team. Dating back to 2019, when I covered the Pittsburgh Steelers for Sports Illustrated, ran grades on Javon Hargrave, said him and DJ Jones, I see a mirror image of each other. These guys are not scheme dependent. They can play in a 4-3 base, or they can play in a 3-4 man front. And you saw it with Javon Hargrave. He played in the 34 base, right? And then he moved on to Philadelphia, who now plays in the 4-3 front. So, with that being said, I see the same thing with DJ Jones. Now, can they afford him? Can they afford DJ Jones? I'm not so sure. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen to Jimmy Garoppolo? We really don't know what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo. We really don't know. And now let's take it a step further and peeling back layers of the onion to get to the core, as I always like to say. Let's talk about Azeez Al-Shaair. All right? Azeez Al-Shaair, the reason by default that I say DJ Jones is more consistent, just by default, it comes to health. Al-Shaair has a sprained elbow. He has now an MCL sprain. And he's been banged up. He actually missed, I believe it was week 5, if I'm not mistaken. Week 5 or something like that. He missed another game earlier in the year. And ever since coming in 2019, look, the guy is small. But he plays big. That's not a knock on him because he's small. That's why he gets injured. I'm not saying that. But, I mean, when you're 225, 230 pounds playing outside linebacker, it's going to take a toll on your body. Going up against 315 offensive linemen who have quick, nimble feet of an offensive tackle or of a tight end, and who can really move in space and really hit that second level with ease. These are things that I look for. And again, Azeez Al-Shaair, if you're watching, you're playing at a first team all-pro level. I think at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, because we have to talk about this, and the DeForest Buckner domino effect, right? I called it the Buckner effect. Called it in 2019. Go check the receipts on my first BWF show, and it got a lot of good traction in hindsight. But in real time, a lot of you guys are saying, oh, no, man, we got Eric Armstead. I was like, well, yeah, he's like the Daniel Stubblefield 2.0 because Bryant Young was what DeForest Buckner was to Daniel Stubblefield. Okay. 2020 first round pick. Javon Kinlaw. What's going to happen with him? He only played in 5 games. People are saying, oh, man, this guy's going to be an all-pro talent. Oh, you see Baldy's breakdowns. I'm like, okay, well, can you stay healthy? Here's the reason why I think they're going to let DJ Jones walk. Because the Bay Area media, me being one of them, will be all over this. All over this if they allow DJ Jones to continue as the starter and have Javon Kinlaw as a serviceable backup. Because you don't drop back from 13 to 14, diminishing the value of the pick, which I stated in real time that they were going to do that, and draft Javon Kinlaw. You should have stuck to your guns and drafted Tristan Wirfs. And if you were to trade down, which I said in my podcast in real time before the draft unfolded, you should have took Justin Jefferson. But no, you hit the panic button once Justin Jefferson was off the board to the Minnesota Vikings. And then you got Brandon Ayuk, who is a good player. But Javon Kinlaw, not a good player up to this point. And what? We're going to say and take a wait and see approach and wait and say year 3? Come on, we've been down this rodeo one too many times with Solomon Thomas, with Eric Armstead. Speaking of Eric Armstead, signed that big money 5-year, $85 million deal in a contract year, and then he reverted back to his rookie self. Is Azeez Al-Shaair going to do the same? Because he's in the contract year. See, this is kind of like buyer beware with anyone in the contract year. Anyone who's in the contract year, go look around the landscape and pulse of the NFL, and you will see a lot of these players shine out. A lot of them shine out, get paid, and then they just go crapola. NFL is a business. I'm not saying all these players are doing it on purpose. Oh, like they only try in their contract. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying is if you look at the analytics, and more times than not, very few players can keep that high level of consistency in the NFL. And that's why the NFL lifespan for your career is what, 3 to 4 years? Tops, 2 to 3 years, I would say, if you're not counting practice squad players. Let's get to some of your questions. Mello, thank you so much for the super chat and super stickers. I really appreciate it. He says, please tell me that what I read was a joke. Jimmy's injury does not require surgery and he may have a chance to play. That's what the word is out, man. Thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker. I did get it. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. I did receive your super chat and super sticker on yesterday's live stream. Thank you so much. And again, if you guys want to support the channel, support the work, support BEASTwriter Family here on YouTube, and support me, you guys can do that with a super chat and super sticker on YouTube, or if you're watching from the comfort of your own home on your Twitter app, TweetDeck, whatever the case may be, iPhone, Android, tablet. You guys can go ahead and there's a money icon there that you guys can send me Venmo payment for my work, or donation, or what they like to call a tip. It's like a bus driver, hey, here's a tip, man. Good job. Or, man, here's a tip. You suck. No money. You're going to get a piece of gum, like in Home Alone. All right. Lunar Mystic says, yo, what's up, Beast? What's going on? And here's a reason. Let's stay on the Javon Kinlaw topic. Again, the NFL media and the Bay Area media specifically will be all over this if they continue to ride with DJ. I'm not saying DJ Jones isn't worth it. He certainly is. In fact, like I said, I would keep DJ Jones over Al-Shaair because, again, I look at the sample size and I also look at the body of work of when those guys came into the league. Remember, Al-Shaair was playing backup middle linebacker before he was flushed into the outside because of Quan Alexander leaving. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, if I'm not mistaken, was starting outside linebacker once they traded Quan Alexander initially. Or am I mistaken? All right. Fast forward to today. Al-Shaair playing hell of a game. Hell of a game. Playing at the same level as Fred Warner. If you guys want to know the dynamics of the BWF grading system, Fred Warner is graded at 7.6. Al-Shaair is graded 1/10 of a point higher at 7.7. All right. Graded every single snap. You guys know this. If you're new and don't know that, I grade every single snap. Lunar Mystic, I just saw Jimmy in the press conference today, but not Trey Lance. Does that show that the Niners are playing an injured Jimmy and not Trey? I don't know. I think there's a lot of speculation. Look, if they play Jimmy Garoppolo is damaged goods. He's going to throw some interceptions, especially if it's going to be rainy weather conditions, because, again, I live across the street from Levi's Stadium. Legit. All right? I'm telling you right now, if it is anywhere near, well, it's not like candlestick where the winds go like this. You know, you see the freaking flags moving and shaking. But if it's raining, how can you grip the football? You have a fractured thumb and you have a torn ligament. All I gotta say is John Lynch is. You see that? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball with whoever is freaking playing running back, whether it's Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell. Shoot, I don't know. Trey Sermon, I don't know. It could be anyone. Run the ball. Because if you have Jimmy Garoppolo behind center or in shotgun formation, speaking of shotgun formation, if Mac throws the ball anywhere near off target, it's like playing with four fingers. I'm serious. I don't understand how you can throw a football or even grip a football with the and then deliver with the proper velocity if you don't have the correct press. Now, I'm not a quarterback guru. You can talk to JT O'Sullivan about this. You can talk to Tom Brady about this. I'm saying common sense is common sense. Look, if you had any type of a fracture or torn ligament, which I've had in the past, we're all human. We're not superheroes. We're not superheroes. And I have a high threshold pain. I'm playing with a torn rotator cuff, subluxation, dislocation, shoulder. All right, where it pops back in and out of place. Played with that. High ankle sprain. Played with that. I'm telling you, if Jimmy Garoppolo can play and have a quarterback passer rating of anywhere above 85, that's good. That's good for Jimmy if he's playing like, I don't know. You can't play a splint on it. If you guys know what a splint is and had fractured or broken fingers or whatever, if you had a splint on it, you can't even throw the football because you have a splint on it. It's set. Like you'd be throwing like this. Now, if you put a soft cast on it, yeah, there's a little bit more mobility there, but it's still, what's the word? It's still not ideal. It's still not ideal, my opinion. So yeah, this getting back to Javon Kinlaw and DJ Jones, I think that you have to let DJ Jones walk because Javon Kinlaw has to get starting reps. He has to get starting reps. Has to in year 3. Has to. I don't care, injuries or not, and you can't use COVID 2020 rookie season as an excuse because let's face it. So did Justin Jefferson. Everyone was on the same level playing field coming in as rookies in 2020. And look, Justin Jefferson up there in receiving yards this year. Set the rookie receiving record last year. Okay, that's different positions. Okay, let's go apples to apples. What about Derek Brown from the Carolina Panthers? What about Raekwon Davis from the Miami Dolphins? If you guys check my Beast receipts last year, I graded every single snap of him. Roll Tide roll. Best interior defensive lineman for a rookie. What about Justin Madubuike from Baltimore Ravens? I graded him. If you want apples to apples comparisons. All better than Kinlaw up to this point. All right, so I think if you're John Lynch, you have no choice. You have to let DJ, if it comes down to it. Now, ideally, you kind of want to sign both. Obviously, it's 2 of your top starters. But if you had to pick and choose, and if you're GM John Lynch, how can you not keep Al-Shaair and then roll in Javon Kinlaw to take DJ Jones' place? If it was me, I'd keep DJ Jones. I don't care. I'd make a strength a bigger strength because I don't know what I'm getting with Javon Kinlaw, and he's still on a rookie deal. Now, if he's injured again, do we pick up his 5th-year option? That remains to be seen because we're forward-thinking here. But at the end of the day, games are won down in the trenches, and if you don't have DJ Jones who can 3 technique and 2-gap his way into the backfield, and you kind of ask Eric Armstead to do that, well, I don't know if he's able to do it. He needs someone there inside other than himself. He can't do it. He can't do it. He's proven it. Now, I do think Eric Armstead's better being kicked inside as opposed to outside, for sure. For sure. Getting a lot more pressure, so hats off to Eric Armstead for being a factor instead of a non-factor for the majority of the year. Somewhat of a factor, I should say. Still not great. Still not good. Still not average, but it is what it is. All right, let's get to your questions. Lunar Mystics is thinking about it. If Jimmy Garoppolo playing versus the trash Texans with a 3rd grade sprain on his throwing thumb shows that they really don't trust Trey Lance. There you go. What I say since day one. All right. I just want to give a shout out to everyone who sent me super chat and super stickers in yesterday's live stream. Also, people who sent me tips on Twitter, I really appreciate it. It's been overwhelming, the support that I've been getting. So thank you so much for everyone that's been doing that. I just wanted to take this time out and say thank you to each and every one of you, because you guys don't have to do that. And I really appreciate it, because it obviously it means a lot, and it means that you guys you guys didn't have to do that. Just a thumbs up would be great. But the super chat and super stickers, I'm not gonna lie, it helps. I mean, who doesn't need money to pay the bills? Obviously, money doesn't grow on trees. So, thank you so much for everyone's love and support, and for valuing my time doing these live streams and in-depth live streams, going in detail, watching coaches film, and then hopping on a YouTube live stream and talking about my BWF grading system and how that affects the landscape of the entire NFL. If DJ Jones, for instance, walks, like, what other teams are possibly interested in him? Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers come to mind. They obviously don't know what's going to happen with Tyson Alualu. Now, he can be a nose tackle in that 34 base defense. We all seen it happen. We all seen that transition. If you guys remember, once Javon Hargrave left to the Philadelphia Eagles, it was Tyson Alualu who moved from 3-4 defensive end position, or the defensive tackle position, however you want to say it, and he was kicked inside to play the nose tackle. And then once he went down to injury, then they had to roll in Isaiah Buggs, roll Isaiah Buggs, and he's been kind of in my grading system, average at best. In fact, I would say he was a little bit below average, but he's not really that guy. And so, do you go into the draft with the Pittsburgh Steelers and GM Kevin Colbert and look at this and say, okay, well, we have a first round pick. Do we go ahead and still solidify the offensive line because that's a bigger need? Or do we address the defensive side of the football, because Cam Hayward has been a one-man wrecking crew and still playing at a first-team All-Pro level, not having Tyson Alualu there, not having Stephon Tuitt there, and then also not having last year's first-team All-Pro talent, Bud Dupree, in my BWF grading system, who's now off to the Tennessee Titans. You guys know who he is, number 48. So, a lot of things to look to when you're GM Kevin Colbert. Obviously, there's some people on Twitter and I call it Steelers Twitter, or whatever team you're rooting for, and they're like, oh, GM Kevin Colbert sucks with first round picks. I'm like, dude, ever since he became the GM back in 2010, he's been awesome. I mean, look what the guy has done. Not just the draft, but look at what he did in undrafted rookie free agents. Look at what he did with the draft picks that he had. Look at the draft in itself in real time, and how he maneuvered, how he saw fit, not reaching for need, diminishing the value of the pick. I mean, for instance, he went ahead and got Alex Highsmith, who I really liked, in the 3rd round. All right? And he knew that he was going to re-sign Bud Dupree because he had TJ Watt to re-sign first. TJ Watt's a higher priority. Duh. And so, obviously, he knew he was going to be the highest paid defensive player, and he kind of knew into that, going into that 2-3 year vision, and he accounted for that the year prior. So now you don't go into the draft in 2021 looking for that edge rusher to replace Bud Dupree, because you already found that in 2020. And he played at a really high level, subbing in for Bud Dupree once I believe he tore his ACL in Week 12 against the Baltimore Ravens. So played at a first-team All-Pro level in my grading system. Now, he kind of regressed this year. He gives a lot of run-fit integrity on the outside. But at the end of the day, Alex Highsmith, number 56, I'm really high on him. Like him a lot. All right, so let's get to your questions. Tommy Huxley says, what's up? What's going on? How are you doing today? Robert Slavin from BEASTwriter Family says, what's up? Go Niners. Drew Burrows, my man for the BEASTwriter Family, says, compliments of the season, Beast. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Mahalo for the love and support. Really appreciate all the love that you have been giving me. And also, thank you so much for always being there for me. You guys are awesome. All you guys are awesome. All you guys are awesome here in the BWF. Well, that's my friend there. Okay. Anyways, I gotta talk to one of my friends who coaches in the college football playoff. He wants to talk to me later. I wonder what he has to say. He's probably going to say, give my man some love. Put out some tweets. No. I do want to talk to him about one of his players, though. All right. Tommy Huxley says, Lunar Josh Allen was fire his first year. It was trash his first year. Josh Allen was not very good his first year. He was not very good his first year. All right. DJ Jones will be traded for draft picks. Sadly, D-Loke 187. Unfortunately, DJ Jones is actually an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He was a 2017 6th-round pick, so he signed a 4-year rookie deal as part of the CBA with the NFLPA. They struck that agreement. You guys know where that is going. No longer is it the days in 1994-95 where you have a guy like, I don't know, Like, who was drafted in the first round? Like a Ryan Leaf or something like that, where it's like there's no pay scale, and it's like, oh, or Michael Vick holding out not to be drafted by the LA Chargers or the San Diego Chargers at the time, and he's like, nah, I'm not playing for the Chargers. And then what happened? They got LT. Hollow. But no, anyways, getting back to DJ Jones. They can't trade him because he's an unrestricted free agent. The only team they can trade him to is if they, slap the non-exclusive franchise tag, and then he's off, and then no team's going to give up 2 first-round picks for a 4-3 defensive tackle. And he's not a one-trick pony because he can rush the passer. That's one thing that I like about DJ Jones, too, is he's very valuable. He's not scheme-dependent. He's not just going to be a 2-down run stuffer. He's definitely a 3-down football player. And DJ Jones, if you lose DJ Jones, San Francisco 49ers, that's going to be a huge blow to that run defense. I'm telling you. And especially when you play in that wide 9, which I talked to an NFL defensive line coach just the other day. And we talked about that wide 9 and how it's going to fail. I'm joking. We didn't say it's going to fail, obviously. I'm taking it out of context. But how it's really difficult to succeed. Let's just say that. Because everybody's so wide and you're giving up rush lane integrity. Which is why when you play a guy against a guy like the zone read, right? When it comes to Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson within the division. When you play with quarterbacks like this, it's easy for a mobile quarterback to kind of see that hole. Because again, if you're pinning your ears back and you're already an outside contain, and you're supposed to be an outside contain, whether you're supposed to box or spill, depending on where that defensive lineman is playing his technique, if he's 2-gapping or 1-gapping, whatever the case may be, if they're supposed to rotate over one in their necessary gaps, whatever the case may be. Second level backers, depending on where they're supposed to be lined up in pass coverage, how many underneath curl hook defenders, curl flat defenders there are, if they have a robber, if they have a spy in a cover 1. Whole player. All that has little things to it. And that wide 9 by default, what you're seeing is all these defensive linemen get pinched by the offensive center, offensive guard, and offensive tackle. It's a 2-by-1 all day, every day, on both sides of the football. Literally, it's easy to hit that second level. And again, DJ Jones makes it really difficult to be double teamed because he can still penetrate the backfield and create plays for others, which is in my mob stat, making others better in my BDF grading system. So without DJ Jones, the plug in the middle, the clog in the middle, that's going to be a huge loss for the team. And if you're looking toward the draft, well, they don't have a first-round pick. They have a second-round pick. Now, are they going to move up in the tail end of the first round? Yes, I think they're going to move up and jump back into the first round and make a splash. I always think that John Lynch will do that. I truly believe he's going to do that. Here we are on December 29th. I talked about this 3 weeks ago, how people were saying, oh, we don't have a first-round pick. I'm like, well, watch. John Lynch is going to climb back up in the first round and get the targeted player so we have something to talk about. I'm telling you. I think look. The way I see things, more times than not, I am right. I'm saying, now if the draft unfolds where there's a few players that are slipping in that gray area, right, that Fuga gray area, and there's like, oh, there's 4 or 5 guys that have gold helmets, and if as the draft unfolds, because as in any draft, there's always those 2 to 3 players that fall within your targeted area of where you're about to select, whether it be the second round, first round, any given round, right? You always have like, it always comes down to 3 or 4 players, right, that you have on your board, ideally. Now, sometimes the player goes off the board and you're like, oh crap, like, should we trade out of this spot because there's nowhere here at this valued pick where do we just take a guy, or should we just kind of have more darts at the board, just trade out of this position and let's kind of regroup in the third, fourth rounds? I mean, that remains to be seen. I don't know how the draft is going to unfold. I can't tell you how the first 35 picks are going to go. But what I can tell you is, knowing John Lynch, I think he's going to make a play in the first round. I really do. Now, obviously, like I said, they can't trade DJ Jones because he's an unrestricted free agent. And the only way they would trade him is if they slap the non-exclusive franchise tag and then forcing a team to make a trade for him. But I don't see that happening. I think they're going to let DJ Jones go. Insert Javon Kinlaw because you have no other choice. You have to give the guy a shot. You drafted him 14th overall for a reason. I wouldn't have done it. But you did. Tommy Huxley, Jefferson is a beast. Yeah. What I say about Justin Jefferson, everyone's, oh no, Justin Jefferson, no, Javon Kinlaw is better than Justin. Real-time analysis. All those people that said that are no longer following me because anytime I retweet that, it shows up their comments and they're like, they think I'm calling. I'm not calling you out. I'm actually just posting my beast receipt, and it just happened. You're the one that left the comment. I can't control who leaves comments. I can't say, hey, don't comment because I'm going to be right. I don't know if I'm going to be right, but more times than not, I am. Never bet against Beast. Bad move. Just joking. Thank you, Kim Ferrison, Hofstra product. Hope we get the quarterback from University of Cincinnati. Yes. Sauce. You guys want Sauce? I know you guys want Sauce. He's good. I like Darian Kendrick. I really like Darian Kendrick. I know he comes with red flags. I know he comes with a bad rap coming from Clemson. Dabo Swinney called him, labeled him that he was in the Love Shack, not the doghouse. I don't care what you call it. Love Shack, doghouse, whatever. Penthouse. Whatever you want to call it, label it. I like how coaches use different terms to kind of like deter from like, nah, bro, like the dude's in the doghouse. And then he actually goes to another doghouse in Georgia. Doghouse in a good way. Get it? Bulldogs? Come on. No pun intended, but DK. Not DK Metcalf. Darian Kendrick. Really high on my board. In fact, when ESPN released their preseason top 100 players of in college football, they left Darian Kendrick out, and I said that was a bad move. Don't do it. And Georgia has what, the number one ranked defense in the entire FBS, or it's up there. I like him higher than I like Sauce. I also like Derek Stingley Jr. Now we're going on the product of his freshman year at LSU back in 2019. Had a really good season that year. Kind of fell off since then. Been banged up. Was dealing with COVID last year, so. Derek Stingley Jr. is another guy, number 24 out of LSU, who I really like. Covered him since his freshman year. True freshman year. Him along with Will Anderson were two freshmen, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. These guys are going to be great NFL pros. Will Anderson from Alabama, not even eligible to be in the NFL yet. True sophomore this year. Arguably the best player in college football. Roll Tide roll. Thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker, man. Gardner Sauce is definitely a good player. I like him a lot. I also like Myjai Sanders, number 21. Myjai Sanders, number 21. He's kind of an edge rusher, kind of a very lanky, kind of like a height, weight, speed type of a specimen. Has a good get off. Now, he played in the American Conference, so I guess you can look at the level of competition. But I like Myjai Sanders. Look up Myjai Sanders, number 21. The guy is awesome. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he'd be a good pass rusher. Now, is he going to be a 3-down player? I don't know. I don't know if that size can hold up and run fit integrity and outside contain if he's playing in a 34 base defense as an outside linebacker. I don't know if you can ask him to hold up against those bigger offensive linemen and tight ends. But at the end of the day, I do like him as a pass rusher. He can really get after the quarterback. Mr. Tina says, Beast, do you think Kyle will make Trey run again in the middle and risk his quarterback to get hurt? You play to win the game. Herm Edwards. I don't know. That remains to be seen, bro. Look. It's I don't know. That's a question for Kyle Shanahan. I have no idea. I don't know. That's a question for Kyle. I really don't know that answer to that. I hope not. Peter Moa says, what is up, bro? Finally able to catch you live. Enjoying the content as always. Everyone give our boy a thumbs up. Yeah, thank you so much, Peter, for always showing the love and support. Yeah, if you guys are here watching on the live stream or even after this show concludes, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me and helps the YouTube algorithm. And just basically, the more people that like it, the more people it's going to show to. So if you can't, or if you're unable, obviously to donate or to send tips, a super chat or a super sticker, whether it be on Twitter or YouTube, all good. Just give me a thumbs up. That is free. And just social media engagement. Just talk to me here on social media, no matter what platform we're on. And I'll get back. Okay. All right. So. All right, so I'm checking the sound. Bear with me. The super chat and super stickers, by the way, will go toward this. I apologize for the horrible sound quality here. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate it. I think I'm good now, right? Am I good now? Let me know. Now is good. All right. So now my sound is better. I sounded like probably a robot. Thank you so much. What's up, G? Thank you, Peter Moa. Better. Yeah, see, this is where all the super chat and super stickers are going to go toward. Again, I have a Blue Yeti. Now, I'm not calling out Blue Yeti, Nato, without calling out Blue Yeti. I am calling out Blue Yeti. I mean, this thing was what? You guys know when I got this, because I used my super chat and super stickers to get this. It was $115 or something like that. And like, oh, this one's good for podcasting and perfect. And I'm like, stuff sucks. I think it's good. I think it's bad. So I'm looking for another USB mic. If you guys know of a good one, let me know. And I'm putting money aside for that. So hopefully we can ring in the new year, 2022, with a bang and get a better mic. So we don't have to have this problem. Hey, Beast, you suck, bro. Like, your mic is horrible. Step up your A game. Or Bay game, as I like to say. Thank you so much. Charles Jones, thank you so much for hopping in here on the BEASTwriter Family. Tell me it's good. Tommy Huxley says, I have a Blue Yeti too. Dude, Tommy, I guarantee you probably don't have this problem. It's only me. If you do have this problem, I'm not alone in this fight. If you have the same problem, let me know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I'm cursed. I don't know if what's going on here, dude. Why me? Why me? No, I'm not. I'm not one of those people. It's like, dude, like, why not me? No, really though, I'm really frustrated with this Blue Yeti crap, dude. This thing is not good for me. And it was working fine. You guys remember, it was working seamless throughout the draft, throughout the entire off season, and all of a sudden it's like, maybe I talk too much on it. I don't know. Maybe I talk too much in general. But then again, it's a podcast. It's a live stream. Am I supposed to stay quiet like this and just look at you like this? No. Mr. TNA says David Culley has made an amazing job as Texans head coach in his first season. He has. He has that team fighting Rex Burkhead, who used to play with the New England Patriots. Gosh, I don't know what's going on today. It's morning. It's afternoon. What I was gonna say. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, he had a good game. Obviously, Brandon Cooks, I believe, had COVID. He was out. They also have Jonathan Greener, the third-round pick out of 2020 out of Florida. He's been kind of banged up. He's been in and out. I think he has COVID, I believe. I think he had COVID. They have some, Camu Grugier-Hill, good player. They have some nice pieces there. Mark Ingram was let go, obviously. They traded him back to the Saints. But again, I like what they have there. I really do. I like what they have there. They don't have much. I mean, Jacob Martin, really? Defensive end, really? But, hey, we've been there before. If you're a San Francisco 49ers fan, we've been there back in 2017. We all remember the days of Malcolm Smith, who's supposed to be a plug-and-play. Malcolm Smith. You guys remember Malcolm Smith, Super Bowl MVP from Seattle? Then went to the Raiders, I believe. Yeah. That guy. All right. Tommy says, never really had a problem with the Blue Yeti, but don't live stream, just videos. What are your memories about the great John Madden? This is a great question. I actually did a special tribute to John Madden celebrating his life on last night's live stream, so be sure to check that out. I did talk about, obviously, the Madden series. I thought that was something that, as a kid growing up, I always fell in love with, and every year, if you guys remember, this is how old I am. Remember Nintendo 64? Remember Nintendo 64? And that was like selling like hotcakes. During that time, Nintendo 64 came out, and I remember that first game that came out was Madden 64, because the Madden lost, or didn't have, I shouldn't say lost, they didn't have the NFL licensed rights to have real players in there. And I didn't know that before I bought Madden 64. I should have known that, but, Google wasn't around, I don't think, back then. Or if it was kind of like, search engine optimization wasn't really around. So here we are today in 2021. But I remember going to Toys R Us and getting it, and I was like, oh, man, I'm going to use Jerry Rice. And I look, and I play this game, like, how come the players don't have names? Like, and then I find out later, like, oh, yeah, no crap, dude, because, like, they don't have the license to have names to the players. And so I was like, oh, what's Foxborough? What's Foxborough? And that's like, oh, that's supposed to be the New England Patriots. Oh, now I know where they play Foxborough. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah. Yeah, you guys remember that? Madden 64. Yeah, I've been playing Madden ever since NFL 2K, and up until NFL 2K came out. Once NFL 2K came out, they freaking blew Madden out of the water. No offense to John Madden. I mean, EA Sports was great, but if you're going to say it's in the game, it's in the game, and it's not in the game, and then NFL 2K ups the ante. Remember they had ESPN, the pregame, postgame show with Chris Berman? The soundtracks were on fire. I really liked NFL 2K series, and you couldn't beat that. NFL 2K till this day is the best video game ever, simulated video game ever. And then the EA Sports brought out the rights for the NFL license, so they can only have exclusive rights to NFL games, and they kind of just ran NFL 2K out of the industry. But I was talking about this on yesterday's live stream. I said, look, if anyone who works at NFL 2K or whatever, Visual Concepts, whatever the case may be, if you guys are watching this, you guys should make a simulated football game with fictional characters, fictional teams, fictional stadiums. You guys obviously have the technology to improve on what you already had going for you, which is still the best video game around. Here we are, what, 10, 12 years later? Or 15 years later, and that game back 15 years ago is still better than the current Madden game today. If you guys just can turn that game, and I'd be a strong supporter of it, I tweeted it out. I put it up there. Shoot, I don't care. And if you made fictional characters where we could play GM, you had a vice president, player personnel, pro player personnel, and then you obviously have to kind of leverage your scouting department. You know, you have to pay these guys. Oh, this guy's is he a 5-star scout or is he a 3-star scout? You know, then you can kind of fit that in, and then you double down on those gains with the roster itself and those transactions with fictional teams. Stadiums. Oh, I want 75,000 people in the stadium. Okay, what's it going to cost to build the stadium out? I think that would be really cool. I really would. Custom helmets, you know what I mean? A simulated game with old, real NFL rules, not the ones today where, you know, you get hits on defenseless receiver. No, we can take that out. Just go back in the early 90s where you can basically play Steve Atwater or Ronnie Lott and have them just go rogue on people going across the middle, paying a toll. Let's face it, we all love violence. Controlled violence is great. I mean, I'm all for player safety again, but this is a video game. If it's a video game, put it in there. I'd buy it and I'd support it. Yeah. Tommy Huxley says Nintendo 64, James Bond Golden. Oh, yes. That was arguably the best Nintendo 64 game ever. I remember playing this in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Whenever it came out. I think it came out in 1997, 98. Right? I remember having sleepovers at my friend's house, and we would just play GoldenEye all day, every day. All day. And we would, obviously, you know, it's Nintendo 64, but you would know the hot spots, where to hide. You know, if you die, you know where you're going to end up at your starting position. And then you look at other people's screens, the other 3 screens on where they're at. And you're like, oh, man, he's right where I'm going to be. Boom, shoot him. I used to always crouch down and use Boris. Yes, I'm a video game nerd. If you guys haven't heard, I talked about this on John Madden's live stream yesterday. I am a video game nerd, for those who don't know. Also like Lord of the Rings. Who would have thought? Star Wars. Harry Potter. Awesome. Anyways, getting back to GoldenEye, I used to have Boris, and he was always short, so it was hard to get the headshot kill. So I would always have him duck, and he'd be like on his knees and just like shooting like this from the ground up. It's awesome. It's kind of like in football, right? It's kind of like in football in today's day and age. We're talking about NFL rules right now. Let's see how that converts. Let's peel back layers of the onion to get to the core when it comes to roughing the passer. I always said, someone should hire me $25 million to play quarterback, because if you did, it'd be a roughing the passer penalty every single time, because I'm only 5'5". You can't hit me low and you can't hit me high. So the target area for a 6'7", 350-pound guy is all but not. You don't have a target area, because if I crouch down, you're going to hit me in the head. 15 yards, face mask, horse collar tackle, hit below the knees. Can't do that. 15 yards. I'm telling you, if I was an NFL GM, I'm borderline not joking about it, because the rules are rules, I would hire and I would employ a 5'5" quarterback and just say, you know what? If you can withstand hits, which you probably can't, but if we need a 15-yard penalty, just sit back and hold the ball. And once the edge rusher is coming toward you, just lean in toward the hit, put your head into it, put your neck into it, 15-yard penalty. The rules are ridiculous. Roughing the passer is ridiculous. If you're a runner, you're a runner. And then again, I talked about the slide and glide on my Twitter. Got a lot of good traction. You guys know about the slide and glide. If you know, you know, right? The hashtag if you know, you know. Put that up there. That quarterbacks are now using the slide and glide to kind of manipulate the rule book. Flip flop all their way down the sideline. They're running out of bounds and then they flop once they get touched going out of bounds. They're not even out of bounds yet. They're still in bounds, and you see a lot of roughing the passer penalties once they start jumping from inbounds to outbounds in midair. They're still technically in bounds, and then they get pushed out of bounds or shoved out of bounds into 15-yard. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh. Alejandro Malanche says Greenlaw has driven his stock throughout his time here at SF. Is he possibly worth a second-round pick? We can replace him with a guy in the 4th round like DeMarvion Overshone or linebacker Brian Asamoah. Well, again, I like Dre Greenlaw. He's been injured. Again, it's still early. I mean, he's still, what was he? He was just drafted, right? So he's still on that rookie deal. I think they're fine. I think they're hoping. I mean, when Dre Greenlaw is healthy, let's face it, Dre Greenlaw, number 57, is an absolute monster. We are getting some comments here on Facebook too. I gotta get to those. But YouTube first, obviously. And if you guys are watching on Facebook, which you guys are, do yourself a favor. Everyone has a YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Runa Pereira says, we need Azeez over DJ Jones. I would respectfully disagree. I think you need both. No, I'm joking. Obviously, you have to choose one. I would keep DJ Jones over Azeez simply because, like I said, of the things that I just mentioned earlier. I think he's more consistent. And again, Azeez Al-Shaair, you guys can remember, he's in the contract year. That's not to say he won't stay consistent from this time out. He's really coming to his own. You talk to D'Amico Ryans, really gets it. And to the naked eye, if you're a fan and don't have BF grading system or don't have your own algorithm for grading players, you guys can just see the guy flies around the football, makes plays at or near behind the line of scrimmage, make plays on the football, always near the football as the nearest defender. So you guys can see where he's playing the curl flat, curl hook route. He really knows his assignment as an underneath defender, so he really does a good job there. And the one thing I will say is missed tackles. That's one thing that concerns me with Azeez Al-Shaair. Called it out since 2019, and obviously he had a sprained elbow, so he had a few in the last game in my grading system against the Tennessee Titans. But he's playing solid, man. He's playing at a first-team All-Pro level. How can you argue against Azeez Al-Shaair? Guy's playing lights out. And so is DJ Jones, though. DJ Jones graded out of 8.1 out of a 10 in my grading system. All right. So, Aaron Harris says, sounds like that coach game EA had. Dude, NFL 2K, our Visual Concepts, I should say, right? They had this game. I forgot what it was called. Was it called All Pro 2000 something, 2K8 or something like that? It was really good. All right. So we are gonna get to your Facebook comments. I know a lot of people on Facebook, obviously, but okay. All right. So that being said, Trevon Moehrig was a steal for the Raiders, Mr. Teenay said. Trevor Moehrig's good, but again, if you want to see what I had to say if you wanted to know what I had to say in real time, I did do draft grades on the Las Vegas Raiders. Go ahead and you can watch that. I was not a fan of Trevon Moehrig, but he's having a good year. But if you want to see what my analysis was on why I think that, go back and see my Beast receipt and see what I had to say about Alex Leatherwood and a few of these other people. All right, so getting back to some of your comments. What else we got here? Let me scroll through Twitter. Twitter. Everyone's on Twitter. Oh my gosh, Peter Morris says Turok was a good first-person shooter too for Nintendo. Turok was that one game with the arrow, right? Isn't it like a bow and arrow or a crossbow? That was, and you're killing dinosaurs or something. I can't remember. I think that's what it was. I played that game and I sucked at it. I was very frustrated. If you want to talk about Nintendo 64, here we are. Like, okay, you guys are talking about Nintendo 64. You guys were supposed to be talking. Look, it all stemmed from Madden, okay? Don't hate, okay? We can go back. Remember Wave Racer 64? Remember Zelda 64? Everything was 64 back in the day. 64, 64, 64. Wave Racer 64 was my thing. I loved that game. Wave Racer 64. Nintendo 64. Which was, you guys want to talk about Nintendo 64? And WCW versus NWO Revenge. Nitro. World Tour. And then WAF came out with, what was it? What was the Nintendo 64 for WrestleMania? It wasn't as good as the WCW versions of WCW versus NWO Nitro, Monday Night Nitro, or anything like that. But SmackDown, wasn't SmackDown on Nintendo 64? But what was the first one? The very first one, I remember, I think it was in 8th, I know it was in 8th grade, because I remember I was in Mr. Aberley's class, and we had to do 20-minute reading before the day started. How do I remember this? I don't know. But at Piedmont Middle, we would have to read for 20 minutes in homeroom before we went about our business. So I would always read the sports section, keep them with the 49ers, because I'm a big 49er fan growing up. And then I always had that, what was that freaking, you guys know, well, if you guys are gamers, what is that book, that magazine that came out, that edition? I forgot that freaking, it's on the tip of my tongue. You guys know what I was gonna say GNC, but that's hello, dude. That's like supplements, dude. That's like nutrition. Like, that's today. It wasn't called GNC. What was it? IGN. You guys remember IGN? Yes. IGN. I would read that, and I remember, what was that game called? That WWF game that came out to rival WCW, and then you had the cage matches where you had The Rock, Mankind. We're going back. People are like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" Forgot that game grade. Mr. Tina says, "Did you watch AEW until now?" I have no idea what AEW stands for. If that's WCW, I know WCW got bought out by WWE. It was WWF before, and then obviously naming rights and trademark and stuff got in the way, so they had to change it to WWE. I was watching WCW and WWF up until high school. Literally, Monday Night Raw was the thing to watch. Monday Night Nitro, obviously. Then you watch TNT. You watch it on USA. You guys remember this. If you smell what The Rock is cooking. And I loved watching Mankind. I loved watching Triple H, China, X-Pac, Road Dogg, Jesse James. You guys remember Shawn Michaels, Kane, Undertaker, Paul Bear, Hulk Hogan, or Hollywood Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage. The list goes on and on and on. Ultimate Dragon, Rey Mysterio Jr., Conan. You guys remember Conan? Arriba la raza. I had no idea what that meant at the time until I had to take Spanish in 8th grade. And I'm like, oh, I know what that means. You learn stuff on TV. To say that, my mom used to say, wrestling's crap, you shouldn't be watching that stuff. I'm like, nah, I kind of like it. She literally said, oh, it's fake, you shouldn't be watching it. And I was like, hey, Mom, I learned look what Conan's teaching me. He's teaching me Spanish. And then she kind of gave me the look, like, oh. Sting, yeah, Sting was a good one. Sting, you guys remember the episode where, I call it episode, but you guys know I guess you call it episode, where he comes out of the ground, or comes out of the ring from the bottom, and everyone thought he was going to climb through the rafters, and then he gave, whatchamacallit, I forgot that move that he had. I know he had the Sting Splash, and he had the Scorpion Deathlock, but what was the other one where he grabbed him by the neck and then pile drived him backwards? I forgot that move. Favorite wrestler of all time has to be The Rock. The Rock Bottom, the People's Elbow, epic. Epic. Before that, he was known as Rocky Maivia. You guys want to know Hunter? What was that guy's name? He played on the '85 Chicago Bears. Forgot his name. He was part of the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair. and Benoit. Forgot his name. Mongo. Mongo, is that his name? Mongo. Anyways, I feel like NFL 2K better than Madden missed that franchise. Yeah, NFL 2K is way better than Madden. No offense to Madden. Madden EA Sports, that is, not Madden Direct. I mean, obviously, but NFL 2K Sports is way better than Madden even today. NFL 2K 15 years ago, 17 years ago, and there is a YouTube guy who actually breaks it down, right? And I was doing some research on this. I think it's called Sports Drink TV. I want to give this guy a shout out. You guys should rate his channel if he ever goes live. He typically doesn't go live, but you guys should definitely check this guy out. This guy knows, like, he breaks it down to it. Yeah, Soft Drink TV. Look up Soft Drink TV. All right, that's a YouTuber. He literally does reviews. Look at the sad decline of Madden. Here it is. The sad decline of Madden, of the Madden series, has 751,000 views 1 year ago. And he does a 2-part series. This is part 2 of the 2-part series. Just look up, literally, Soft Drink TV. Soft Drink TV does a really good job. And we all agree. If you played video games, you would know what I'm talking about. Literally, NFL 2K series was way better than Madden. And today, Madden is what, and that's why I always joke around, Coaches Film today on NFL Game Pass is what Madden is today. It's a dubbed down version, and they still require a premium price for that service. It's just updated rosters and updated games, yet they dub down the product. Simple. NFL Game Pass, the game's supposed to come out 24 to 48 hours after the game is played, and here we are today, before hitting this live stream, and no games are there. In fact, it was just a black depth of screen, just like the blue depth of screen that they show. I don't know what's going on. And then they leave plays out. If you look at the condensed film as opposed to the full replay, sideline versus end zone. I don't know why they have to do that. That was such a horrible tactic. I don't know who came up with that idea that you dub it down by plays, like each individual plays, and then you have to cross-check it by sideline and end zone. Look, it's called All 22. If you want to watch coaches film, you should see both vantage points on one single play without having to scroll back and forth, because at the end of the day, the product that's today freezes when you try to do that. Not only that, it has warp speed, so it transitions, and you can only transition by 10 seconds at a time. Hello, if you try to break down a play every 10 seconds, you're going to be missing a lot of the play. What are we doing? As Julian Edelman will say on Inside the NFL. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Peter Moore says, Ultimate Warrior. Good guy. Good guy. Mello. Norman Smiley, the greatest hardcore wrestler of all time. Oh, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was that boy to me. Yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was dope. He always had that hacksaw. He always came in that Speedo with that 4x4. Yeah. Stone Cold Steve Austin. I went to go see these guys at the San Jose, was it the San Jose Pavilion that it was called back in the day? I don't know what it was called back in the day. The Shark Tank, whatever. And I remember watching Stone Cold Steve Austin. I actually came to a shirt. I actually went to school the very next day in my Stone Cold Steve Austin t-shirt. It was like $35 back then. That's expensive. It would be like, today for a t-shirt, it would be like equivalent to $80 for a t-shirt. And I bought it. And I don't know how I had that money to buy a $35 t-shirt back then at the age of, what? How old was I? 12? I had no idea where I got the money. Definitely didn't steal it. My parents probably, I think my parents gave me money to eat, and I didn't eat. I think I just bought the shirt. I went to school the next day, got sent to the principal's office because it had some like vulgar language on the back. I forgot what it said. It was the 316 shirt. I remember that. And then my mom was so upset because I got that shirt, and I was like, you know what? Yeah. Another funny story, I did the whole Suck It celebration as I was coming off stage, or actually as I was on stage, and during my 8th grade celebration, walking the stage, and everyone thought, honestly, I thought I was going to get in trouble. They said not to do it because me and my friends, we were known to do that. We used to do this across the hall, and as we're passing in the quad, and we'd be like, "Suck it!" And then like some of the teachers would be like, but some of the teachers were like onto it. They're like, "Yeah, I watched it. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying. You're not literally saying to suck it. You're just doing it because you saw it. You saw X-Pac and Triple H and Shawn Michaels do it, Road Dogg, Jesse James, and so forth." And so I would do that. We would go like that. And Matt, if you're watching, Greg, if you're watching, Chris, if you're watching, Adam, if you're watching, who also played college football in Colorado, if you're watching, we always used to do this. And we kind of got in trouble sometimes, but majority of the times we did it. We all made a dare, 8th grade graduation, to say, hey, so one of us has to do it, and we'll get it on tape. And then they're like, who's going to do it? And at the time, they're like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. Then when the names were being called and, it's in alphabetical order, people were passing through. De La Rosa goes through, doesn't do it. I was like, man, if there's one guy that I had bets that he would do it, it would be him. Didn't do it. Matt comes across the stage, didn't do it. Greg didn't do it. Chris didn't do it. And then there's me. I was like, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And then there's parents who were in the stands. They were like coming up to me, high-fiving me. It was ridiculous. I was like, yes, I'm saved. I didn't get in trouble. Always remember that. All right. Mello, Andre the Giant will always be my favorite. May he rest in peace. Andre the Giant was good, too. I think they did a Dirty for 30 on ESPN. I call it Dirty for 30, not 30 for 30, if you know why, here in the BWF, because you get the dirty on the 30. I think they have a special on Andre the Giant on ESPN+. Steve Michaels. There you go. Steve Mongo McMichael. There you go. Or Steve Michaels. Was it Mongo McMichael or is it Michaels? Kim Preston, when they bought out the rights, they knew they could put out a watered down product and it still would sell like hotcakes. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It's all, at the end of the day, it's a business, but hey, man, you got to do the right thing. And the right thing was to put out a better product, not a crappier one, and justify paying a higher price. Look, NFL 2K, again, if Visual Concept, whoever's in charge there, make a fictional game. BEASTwriter's telling you right now, it's Beast approved. Make a fictional game with fictional characters and just up the ante. Because what you're going to do is, people, even though you may not see the return on your investment initially, people are going to look to that game today and be like, you know what? How come Madden can't do that? Look what look at the whoever made NFL 2K, Visual Concepts, VC, look what they're doing. Madden can definitely hold that type of power because technology is the same, and why aren't they doing that? Now you're forcing their hand by default, and now it's going to have, by default, you're going to raise their game. And look, I like the fictional game and fictional characters anyways. I really do. I really do. All right. So Kim Ferris says, what about Junkyard Dog? Who is Junkyard Dog? That's a good one. Who is Junkyard Dog? I forgot who Junkyard Dog is. I'm old. Please forgive me. But who is Junkyard Dog? I forgot who Junkyard Dog is, Kim. My man, What's Up G says, will Davis Mills be the Texan starting quarterback next year? That is a great question. Again, I don't think he will be the starting quarterback next year, simply because although he is a rookie, obviously Stanford guy, right? Coming out of farm, if I'm not mistaken. Likes to use the word alpha. Said that on earlier live streams after grading every single snap of Davis Mills. Alpha, alpha, alpha. Listen to Alpha at Levi Stadium. Alpha, alpha, alpha. But getting back to Davis Mills, do I think he's going to be the starter next year? I think that remains to be seen, because we really don't know what's going to happen in the draft. And we really don't know what's going to happen or what Nick Caserio is thinking if he's going to make a play for a quarterback. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo can make his way to the Houston Texans. I can still see that happening. I know it sounds crazy, but I can still see that happening. I pointed this out in the offseason that could happen. And nothing is going to deter me from Jimmy Garoppolo moving on to a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's another one, right? I think the Pittsburgh Steelers could use him. He's definitely an upgrade over Mason Rudolph, who they thought would be that guy. That's why they drafted him so high, along with James Washington, who played with each other over at Oklahoma State. But James Washington's not returning next year. Let's face it. He requested a trade, and there were no suitors for James Washington, so that's why number 13 had to return to the team. You guys don't know that. Talked about it here in the BWF in real time. Guys are like, who's James Washington? Second round pick. Who's Mason Rudolph? He's not second round pick. He was number 2. He wears number 2. Mason Rudolph also played at Oklahoma State, along with R.W. McQuarters, drafted by the 49ers in 1998. along with Rashawn Woods, another first-round pick drafted by the Niners. Both guys were busts in San Francisco. But Mooch loved R.W. McCord's biceps, which is one of the reasons I live today. Not joking. R.W. McCord's had guns for days, and I was like, man, I want guns like that because he's only 5'9", and he weighs 185 pounds. But the guy's built like a freaking monster. All right. So that's a good question. I don't know if he's going to be the starting quarterback next year. Jeff, I would say they're going to take a wait-and-see approach because, again, if there's a veteran quarterback who can be a plug-and-play, like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, that might be your best play. And then you draft a quarterback in the draft. Like, you can develop a guy. Look, Nick Caserio probably wants to draft his quarterback of the future. And that's ideal. But do you go after, if you have a top 10 pick or whatever the case may be, if you don't even have top 10 pick, whatever you do in the draft, you're going to have to draft that guy because Deshaun Watson is not that guy. Deshaun Watson is not that guy. He's all but gone. He's going to be traded somewhere. Now, where is that going to be? Is that going to be Philadelphia? Don't they hold multiple first-round picks? Deshaun Watson in Philadelphia next year would be something so fun to watch. It bring back the vibes of Randall Cunningham. I'm telling you. If you guys remember Randall Cunningham, number 12, for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, a lot of you guys will remember him. I know I did during my high school days playing with Minnesota Vikings and Chris Carter and Jake Moore. I think his name was Jake Moore, right? Jake Reed. Sorry, Jake Reed. And then Randy Moss. And then they had, who was their fullback? Klein Saucer. Right? That was their fullback. They had Robert Smith back there, Pro Bowl running back. They had a good offensive line with Todd Stussy there. You guys remember Todd Stussy? But before that, he was on the Philadelphia Eagles. Great player. I liked him on Philadelphia. That guy can run for days. If Deshaun Watson goes to Philadelphia, team him up with Landon Dickerson, team him up with Devontae Smith. Whew, you don't have Zach Ertz there. Obviously, he got traded to the Arizona Cardinals, but you got Dallas Goedert there, who just gave big money to. Woo! You still got Miles Sanders, even though he's injured. You got Boston Scott. Oh, Boston Scott? Who? That guy is, if you play fantasy football, Boston Scott. He's diminutive, yet shifty. I like that. Good change of pace back. Right? They have a stable offensive line. Mailata. They have still have Kelsey there. And then you have a defense backed up by Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox. We don't know if Derek Barnett's coming back, but hey, he may be on the return. You still have Darius Slay back there who can marry opposing teams' wide receivers. Did a really nice job on Terry McLaurin the first time around. How is he going to fare this week? Well, talking to my friend for all you fantasy owners, ran grades on that. Terry McLaurin was getting open against Darius Slay. Gilbert just wasn't finding him. But Terry McLaurin, I would play him. If you're in the championship league, I would play Terry McLaurin because more times than not, he was beating Darius Slay with his routes, especially when he was running those post routes. Watch when he runs those post routes, you see Darius Slay playing with a sizable cushion, and Terry McLaurin eats up that cushion and not only stacks the cornerback over the top and beats him, what was it, for a 40-yard bomb, but he also runs crisp routes, and Darius Slay understands that, and when he breaks on the ball, it's a little too late. Terry McLaurin, top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, just like DJ Moore. Not a household name, top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, for the Carolina Panthers. Both those guys are awesome. Aaron Harris says, Watson to the Steelers. Yeah, I would love Deshaun Watson. Again, I'm a big Steelers fan. And I'm just a fan of the NFL, but I like watching the Steelers and supporting the Steelers. Players obviously show me love in the BWF, Cam Hayward being one of them. I like the Steelers, and one because I covered them for Sports Illustrated back in 2019. But I like the Steelers. I like the Niners. I like the Chiefs. I like the Packers. How can you like the Niners and like the Packers? Now, if I said the Seahawks, I respect the Seahawks. Not saying I like the Seahawks. I respect the Seahawks. I just can't. Cowboys? I'm a big fan of Micah Parsons. Big fan of Michael Parsons. Yeah, but if Deshaun Watson goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, all bets are off. I'm telling you. But they still have to solidify that offensive line because no quarterback can have success with the way that offensive line is shaking up. Look, Trey Turner is a veteran Pro Bowl guard, but his past his prime, number 51. I'm sorry, Trey Turner. I liked you when you were on the Carolina Panthers. I liked you when you were on the Chargers, but you're past your prime. I think they need to get younger. I think they need to get someone like, well, the draft isn't looking so promising, but I mean, hey, look, I know a center sounds crazy to draft in the first round, but again, look what the Chiefs did with Creed Humphrey. Look what I had to say in my real-time analysis on giving those grades leading up to the selection of Creed Humphrey and how so many other teams had needs at interior guard or center, and Creed Humphrey would have been a nice plug-and-play as an Oklahoma Sooner. I see the same exact concept when it comes to Tyler Linderbaum. If you guys don't know who Tyler Linderbaum is, he is someone that I can see can be a plug-and-play, NFL-ready starting center. He is, in my opinion, one of the best centers to come out in the last 5 years. Now, is he better than Creed Humphrey? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is if you get a guy like Tyler Linderbaum, who's a plug-and-play in Pittsburgh, to play under center behind Deshaun Watson, now you have something to work with. Move Kendrick Green, who's been a liability. No offense, Kendrick Green. I like your mean streak. I do, coming out of Illinois. But, 4th round pick, I get it, right? I think you were a 4th round pick or 3rd round pick, whatever the case may be. I think you were a 3rd round pick, actually, Kendrick Green. I think Dan Moore was a 4th round pick. But, whatever the case may be, move him to guard, insert Tyler Linderbaum, and then work your way outside. Dan Moore, I don't know if he can play blindside left tackle. I would move you over to the right side. But then again, not all. It's not as simple as that because some people are strictly left tackles. They feel more comfortable on the left side than they do the right, and vice versa. So I don't know if he can be a swing tackle. But I will say this. I will say that offensive line needs to get cleaned up. And it is interesting that Najee Harris ranks 5th in rushing, despite that offensive line. That's, yes, it improved. It has. Graded every single snap. It has improved as the year gone on. But it's even as rookies, they're still struggling. Even for a rookie, they're still struggling. A lot of penalties. A lot of holding penalties. Big plays being called back. You see it on Najee Harris' face? Like, oh, man. In fact, how many times had Najee Harris get hit in the backfield and still get positive gains out of it? He's hurdling defenders like he did at Alabama. He's making splash plays, and he's still, even though the 3.7 yards per carry that he's averaged, or something like, I think that's the stat line right now, or somewhere in that area, it's amazing how it's even at that. That is good, because if you think about what he's going up against in that offensive line in a stacked box, more times than not, because Big Ben doesn't, let's face it, Big Ben is past his prime. I don't know. But if you have Deshaun Watson there, woo, I like it. I like Deshaun Watson. I think if you go after a guy like Tyler Linderbaum, and if not the offense side of the football, adjust the defense, because we don't know what's going to happen with Tyson Alu. We don't know what's going to happen with Stephon Tuitt. You can get Jordan Davis in there. You can get Wyatt in there. Be the plug-and-play 34-base defensive end or defensive tackle to team up with Cam Hayward. And games are won down in the trenches. You don't really need an edge rusher. You're already set with Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt there. Devin Bush is an interesting one because you did trade up for him in the tail end, or not the tail end. I believe it was with the Denver Broncos, right? I think you moved up in the draft to, what was it, number 10? For a guy by the name of Devin Bush. And we don't know if you're going to pick up his 5th-year option because he's kind of been, but you then traded for Joe Schobert. I like that move. He is supposed to shore up that pass coverage as an underneath curl flat defender or curl hook defender, whatever coverage that you were in. And obviously they tried to solidify that ever since covering the team back in 2019 for Sports Illustrated when they had Mark Barron. I said, man, that guy was a converted strong safety coming from Alabama. And then they moved him to inside to linebacker, and that didn't pan out. And then all of a sudden you guys know what happens here. So Mark Barron, not working out. Joe Schobert in. Fast forward to today. Devin Bush, we don't know what's going to happen with him. So yeah, we don't know. We just don't know. I do like the offensive weapons that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. I like Deontay Johnson. Put that out there. That was a blessing in disguise when they went ahead and got him. Coming out of Tulsa, right? Tulsa or Toledo, one of those two. I think he played at Toledo. Anyways, came out of one of those two schools, out of the MAC. Did a really good job there as a 3rd-round draft pick. I think he was drafted number 66 overall, if I'm not mistaken. And the late Darryl Drake provided some great insight on why they selected him. And they said, hey, look, Jerry Rice also played at a non-Power 5 conference, and look at him. So what they saw with that Daryl Drake, the late Daryl Drake, saw in Deontay Johnson. I went ahead and reported that on the Steelers Sports Illustrated website, and I said this guy's gonna be the real deal. I really liked the pick in real time. I just wanted to hear what Daryl Drake had to say, and he basically said the same things that I thought. But then he also elaborated on why this is why exactly we drafted Deontay Johnson. So he's a good guy that they have for the foreseeable future. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but again, electrifying returner in his own right as well. So you have him there. You also, James Washington, I just talked about, he's going to be gone. And you have Chase Claypool, second round pick out of Notre Dame. I still like him. I think he can be special, but he wants music played at practice, and Mike Tomlin said, nah, not happening, bro. So Pat Fryermuth, liked him out of Iowa. Another Iowa Hawkeye, Tyler Linderbaum, if you're listening. All right. Jets gang says Watson to the Panthers. Well, you have Sam Darnold. You're not happy with Sam Darnold? Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Carolina. You Carolina fans, Jets gang, always in here. Thank you so much for the love and support. You guys had a hell of a draft, man. That's all I gotta say. Beast receipts check out. Thank you for proving me right. Rookies on the New York Jets. Mello, Watson to Green Bay. Rodgers to San Francisco. Garoppolo to the Canadian Football League. Wow. What a diss. That's funny. I've been a 49er fan since the mid 80s, but I secretly root for the Green Bay Packers when they're not playing the Niners, of course. Oh, I like that. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, because that rivalry has always been stuck in my mind as a kid growing up, because during the late 90s, man, it was one of those things, man. I remember they had guys like Don Beebe, special teams ace. You guys remember Don Beebe? He's the guy that really put himself on the map in the Super Bowl. If you guys remember, Don Beebe was the guy who ran down and chased down Leon Lett, who kind of went like this in the Super Bowl. Michael Jackson played the halftime show, Heal the World, if you guys remember that song. How do I remember that? I don't know. And then Leon Lett was looking at the screen, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to score. And then Don Beebe said, nah, not today, bro. Gave him the Dikembe Mutombo wag, and knocked it out for a touchback. And it was no touchdown. And that will always live in my mind as one of the greatest plays in NFL history, because they were getting blown out, and yet he still made a play on the football. And as a kid growing up, that will always stick in my mind as one of the greatest plays in NFL history, simply because he didn't have to do that. But yet he showed heart. He showed heart that he played to the whistle. And I think that's what sports teaches us. When we watch sports, we can see the scoreboard, who wins, who loses, and all that other things, but it teaches you life lessons, right? Never give up in anything you do. Just like here on YouTube, right? Like trolls. There's always going to be trolls there. So what? Never give up. I don't care. Silence the trolls with your noise, with your work. Who cares? Like, whatever. Swipe left. You don't like it? Swipe left. I don't give a damn. Life goes on. And if you never give up, and you're going to prevail. And I think that's what Don B showed in a lot of different ways, is to never give up. And I took that with me when I played sports growing up. I always remember that play and always stick in my mind. But getting back to the Green Bay Packers, right? Going back to the Green Bay Packers, I mean, during the 90s, they had Travis Jervey. Gosh dang it. Travis Jervey, Don Beebe, Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, obviously. Earl Dotson, Santana Dotson. Who else did they have? Mark Shimura. Oh my gosh, Mark Shimura. Dorsey Levens. You guys remember Dorsey Levens? Number 25. Dorse the Horse Levens. John Madden and Pat Summerall. Gosh dang it. Every time they called that game, the Niners and the Packers, they did such a great job, but they would always chew up the Niners. That defense got gassed. Look at Dorsey. No one can bring him down. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then there's a wham here and a wham here and up the middle, boom. And then boom. John Madden. That's my Madden impression for you guys. But the seal block here and the seal block here. No, that would be the Lombardi. But no, getting back to it, I remember that. I remember watching Pat Summerall and John Madden on Fox, and they would just hype up Reggie White so much. And obviously, they didn't have to do much hyping because it speaks volume. But I'm just like, gosh, can you give our guys some love? No, because they suck. They always were on the losing end. Steve Young, Dana Stovall, Bryant Young, Ricky Jackson. No, actually, during that time, that 1994 team, they did have Ricky Jackson, and they won the Super Bowl. That's when they got over the top. That was the Dallas Cowboys. That was the early 90s, not the late 90s. But in the late 90s, I mean, you look at, oh my gosh, who was on that team in the late 90s? Rod Woodson, right? Didn't Rod Woodson come? Gosh, Merton Hanks, Tim McDonald, think they were still on the team. God, JJ Stokes. You guys remember JJ Stokes? I've gotten to know JJ Stokes personally. We used to play basketball up in San Ramon together, and before covering the Niners, of course, just being a fan. And yeah, he's always a fun guy to talk to. JJ Stokes. I like JJ Stokes. JJ is a good guy. Thought he was going to be something great. Bill Walsh thought he was going to be the next Jerry Rice, for crying out loud, coming out of UCLA. Never happened. All right, Aaron Harris says, what's your grade on Marcel Harris converting? I can give you that grade. If you want grades on players, I do that, and I do have Marcel Harris's grade. If you have a grade on specific player, what I do is I ask that you give me a super chat, super sticker, and then I will go ahead and punch that grade for you. Some of these other players that I have, I'll go ahead and run the legwork on that. I do have grades on Marcel Harris. I just have to follow up on what I was going to say. I'm going to do a double take on that and basically double check my work to make sure it's accurate. So when I give you that grade, it is what it is. So let me go ahead, and if you're really serious about wanting that grade, I can go ahead and give it to you. But what I see from Marcel Harris is an average player off the top of my head. I think he was graded out like at a 5, which is average. Still has a lot of missed tackles. And a lot of run fit missed assignments and pass coverage. He gets blown away in pass coverage. He's not really good. Being a converted safety to now an outside linebacker. I'm not a fan of Marcel Harris. I'm really not a fan of Marcel Harris. The Beast Receipts, you can check the Twitter. I'm not a fan of Marcel Harris at all. They can do without him. My opinion. Tommy Huxley's. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Zach Wilson, back to the trash can. Aaron Harris says, Don Beebe was a wide receiver that helped the Bills with their epic comeback over the Oilers. Yes, Don Beebe, yes. Don Beebe was awesome, man. That epic comeback, if you guys remember, during that Oilers game, I remember vividly watching that game. I liked watching the Bills for some reason, maybe because they had Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, and Andre Reed, and Bruce Smith. I don't know. But I always loved watching the Buffalo Bills, maybe because they won all the time. But Frank Reich was actually the quarterback and orchestrated that epic comeback. And it was one of the most memorable things that I will always remember. And I had no idea who Frank Reich was. I was like, who the heck is Frank Reich? You guys know who he is now. He's the Colts coach. But if you guys know and want to know exactly what we're talking about here with Aaron Harris here in the BWF, it was a really good football game and one of the greatest comebacks in NFL history. I think it was a playoff game. Wasn't it a playoff game? Lunar Mystic, Yo Beast, could Rodgers come to SF next season without a trade? I heard he has a weird contract that could make him go to a team without a trade. I don't know about the trade clauses or no trade clauses and how that works with that specific team, if there's weird lingo in there. But as far as I know, I think he has to get traded. But I don't know for sure. Jeremy Chin and Kenny Moore are so underrated. They are. And what Mr. TNA is talking about, he's talking about the Carolina Panthers and the Indianapolis Colts respectively. Kellen Moore, not the quarterback coach of the Dallas Cowboys or OC of the Dallas Cowboys. No. Kenny Moore, the second, is an Indianapolis Colts slot cornerback, and he's really sound and fundamentally sound at the point of attack, at the line of scrimmage, does a really good job in maintaining his splits. I think he does a really nice job there. One of the most underrated slot cornerbacks, but he's not so much underrated anymore. He kind of flew on the radar last year in my BWF grading system, along with guys like Mike Hilton, K'Wan Williams, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Guys like these, I always talked about these guys on Twitter. So if you guys want to see what I had to say about that, the Beast Receipts, check out. Fast forward to today. But, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I thought should have been in play with the 49ers as a 4th-round pick out of Florida. Had many opportunities to go ahead and get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I really liked him, and as you guys can see, now you know why. But yeah, getting back to it, I like more. I also like Jeremy Chin. You guys don't know who Jeremy Chin is. He played strong safety, can play cornerback, can play the slot, can play outside linebacker. I mean, the guy does it all. Another guy who's very underrated on the Carolina Panthers, we just talked about DJ Moore. Let's talk about another guy named Brian Burns, one of the best pass rushers in the entire NFL. Now, he does give a lot of run fit integrity. Again, he's a one-trick pony in my estimation, because of the fact that he gives up a lot of run fit integrity. Graded every single snap of Brian Burns. He's not on the level of Joey Bosa or a Nick Bosa. Let's not get it twisted. But at the end of the day, definitely Brian Burns, what he brings to the table in his tool shed is he's a top 5 pass rusher, simply because the pass rushing skills that he has in his tool shed, arguably the best in the game. arguably the best in the game, up there with guys like Chase Young, up there with a guy. I mean, if we're talking about edge rushers as opposed to interior rushers, I mean, I can't really name a better edge rusher in terms of having that type of get off, that burst, that speed, that quickness, that spin move, that rip, that pull, right? He does it all. Brian Burns, a very good pass rusher. Very good pass rusher. Aaron Harris says, Terrell Owens, game winner with Mooch coaching. Oh, yeah. We all remember. I was at the game, front row and center on the 20-yard line with my pops. And we were actually on TV in the background. You can see us jumping for joy. I was in this, I was wearing, I don't know why I was wearing my blue Russell sweatshirt, which by the way, I talked to you guys, I went to my storage unit and I had so much stuff there, which is why I was wearing my 80s 49ers beanie. That was in storage. And I was wearing that sweatshirt, and I don't know why I have it, but you guys remember that game was back in 1998. It was a wild card game, and it was right after Antonio. I remember saying this to everyone in the stands, and people didn't take it. Thought I was joking or were like kind of down when Antonio Freeman caught that pass by Brett Favre. I was at that game. I said, you know what, we're gonna come back. I said, watch what's gonna happen. Even before that touchdown came to fruition, I said, you know what, Antonio Freeman's gonna score a touchdown, and then we're gonna come back and score a game-winning touchdown with Terrell Owens. I literally said this. I called out both things happening before they happened. And when it happened and after it happened, people were like, looked at me like I was weird. Like, whoa, how did you know that? They were celebrating, but they were kind of looking at me like, whoa, like, how did you know that? And I'm like, I like as a kid, I'm like, maybe I should have just stayed quiet and kept that to myself. But I wanted to tell people, hey, look, I'm not worried. Like, it's not me being a fan. Like, we're going to score. Like, calm down. I don't know. I just had a gut feeling. I literally said that. Just like when I said back in, I think it was 2011, Deshaun Goldson got the interception against the Tampa Bay Bucks. All right, so he got an interception against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I remember this. And, or it was Carlos Rogers. I think it was Carlos Rogers. No, Deshaun Goldson laid the hit, but it was Carlos Rogers. I think he came up with an INT. I remember it was on the 35-yard line, somewhere in there, 30-yard line. And it was like, oh man, like defense. And I was like, watch, there's going to be an interception right here. I think Carlos Rogers is going to pick it off, like right here on this play. I don't know. Maybe it was just a gut feeling. Obviously, I was looking at the down and distance and formation. I was like, oh, he's going to undercut that route. And it was picked off by Deshaun Goldson. I think it was Deshaun Goldson or Carlos Rogers, one of the two. But I remember saying it was going to get picked off and by one of those two players, and it was. And then people look at me like I was weird. And your coaches of all time rankings, where does Joe Gibbs rank? Oh, that's great. That's a great question. That's a great and loaded question. I have to actually do the breakdown on that. I'd never really honestly had the chance to understand Joe Gibbs because I think that was a little before my era. But so was Bill Walsh, though. And I can go back and I can watch film and I can get back to you and talk to players and former players, obviously, and get the rundown on that. But Joe Gibbs, he ran if I'm not mistaken, he ran a different style of offense where he kind of changed the game, right? Wasn't he using more of a fullback and running back type of, like the T-wing formation or whatever it was called? I don't know what it was called, but I remember he was using some kind of offense system like Bill Walsh used with his patented West Coast offense. And yeah, Joe Gibbs, wasn't he one of the most winningest all-time coaches, if I'm not mistaken? It's Joe Gibbs. Yeah, I remember him for the Washington Redskins over the years, just killing it. But that's a good question. I don't have an answer for you because I don't have that off the top of my head. Mello, if you remember, Leon Lett did that against Miami, and I think Miami recovered the ball and won the game. Yes, Leon Lett did do this against Miami, and I talked about this on yesterday's live stream. I think it was either a Christmas, because I remember I was in San Francisco at my aunt's house in the living room watching this game. It was snowing during this game, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was snowing, and I believe it was in Dallas. And I guess it was the Miami Dolphins, but it was in Dallas. And I remember it was a blocked field goal. I want to say it was a blocked field goal or a blocked punt, some special teams play, and Leon Lett was supposed to let the ball bounce, and that guy made another ill-advised mental mistake, and he touched the ball, and then they recovered, and then the Dolphins recovered. I think it was a blocked field goal. Game-winning field goal, potential game-winning field goal, and Leon Lett's like, oh, I'm gonna touch the ball and be the savior. And it's like, nah, man, you kind of screwed it up. And I remember seeing that, and I'm like, man. But I do believe it was snowing in that game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mr. TNA 2005 says, did you Did you see Verone McKinley III from Oregon playing? I have not ran game film on him yet. I'll be honest with you. I will go ahead and do that now that you mentioned it. But I did get a head start on the 2020 NFL draft. He's just not one of the players that I'm looking at right now. He's not high on the priority list, but if he should be, let me know. Yep, it was a playoff game. My dad broke his toe over that game. He was a big Warren Moon fan. Yeah. Wow. Big Warren Moon fan. If you guys remember Warren Moon was an absolute baller in his own right. Number one for the Houston Oilers. Gosh, Houston Oilers. I miss those baby blue uniforms and the white. That was dope. That was dope. I think they had Chris Dishman, the cornerback. You guys remember Chris Dishman? I think it was number 28. Chris Dishman. You guys are probably wondering, who the heck is Chris Dishman? What is he talking about? Amin the Dream says Burns is super underrated. Well, he is a Pro Bowler now, so I wouldn't say he's underrated, but last year he definitely was. Even though he was a Pro Bowl alternate last year, wasn't he? Amin the Dream, TJ Watt or Myles Garrett? TJ Watt all day long, all day strong. Give me TJ Watt over Myles Garrett simply because I look at run fit integrity. I think TJ Watt in my BDEV grading system is a little bit better in run fit integrity. However, this year, I can't say that's true. In my BDEV grading system, because I grade every single snap up to this point, let's run the grades. TJ Watt comes in at a 7.7. Myles Garrett comes in at 7.5. So TJ Watt is 2.2 of a point higher right now, but I still have to run grades on week 16. So I'm still running the grades on the Kansas City Chiefs, but he's neck and neck. I would say give me TJ Watt over Myles Garrett. I would give me TJ Watt over Myles Garrett. Richard, although Myles Garrett had a nice pick six, you guys seen that? Not pick six, that forced fumble, strip sack for a touchdown. That was ridiculous. Richard says, sign Azeez and let DJ walk. We have depth at defensive line. Okay, we talked about depth at along with defensive line with my man Randy Mueller, who, as you guys know, was the GM of the Dolphins, GM of the Saints, 2000 GM of the year. Also worked with the Seahawks. Look. You can have depth. Anyone can name players on a roster, but it's about having good depth. You lose DJ Jones, who do you have? Javon Kinlaw? Okay. How's that going for you? Do you trust Eric Armstead taking on those double teams and still making plays at or near behind the line of scrimmage? I wouldn't. So I would say you don't have depth at defensive line. Now you have depth at edge rushers. You have Arden Key, you have Jordan Willis, but can they shrink inside as a 3-tech defensive tackle? I don't think so. Is Contavious Street the answer? He's a depth piece at best, not a starter. So again, it's all about having good depth. Depth piece at best, number 95. And they don't have Julian Taylor, you guys remember. He's gone. We have our core intact. We just need to draft some more gems. All right. Yo, Beast, what's your cornerback ranking in the draft? Who should the Niners target in the draft? That's a great question. And again, I do not like to do this, and I think it's fool's gold for anyone that does this. I think it's clickbait for people who do this because, again, if you really know the draft and really understand the draft and how I do things, I can't speak for anyone else, but you really can't put a target on a cornerback without knowing the landscape of the entire NFL and what other teams are doing. In fact, when I formulate my mock draft, you guys, as you know, where I post out on Twitter, on YouTube, it's usually more times than not spot on or pretty close, right? Because of the fact, like, again, I don't release this stuff until free agency takes place. All-star games still need to take place. We still have to know about guys' measurables, still look at their character issues. And then after all that is set aside, then you have to look at the landscape of the entire NFL in terms of, okay, so all these teams need cornerbacks, but at the end of the day, based on your rankings, BeastWriter, on your big board, what are the odds that these players are going to come off the board based on this GM's tendencies or based on what their team needs? Or, oh, hey, look, there's a Kyle Fuller. Like last year, you guys remember, Kyle Fuller was a surprise cut, but not here in the BWF. I said he was going to be cut as a cap casualty because, again, they needed to save money. Ryan Pace needed to cut back somewhere. And I said, you know what? Kyle Fuller's going to be that guy. The Beast receipt checks out. I said, once he goes, he's going to be a guy that's going to be highly sought after, because here's a guy who's a former Pro Bowler, first round pick out of Virginia Tech. I thought he was better than a guy by the name of Justin Gilbert, who we talked about Oklahoma State was going to be a bust. I said in the Beast Receipts, literally back in 2014, I called this. I said, I would rather have Jason Verrett at a TCU or Kyle Fuller than Justin Gilbert. And everyone, oh, Justin Gilbert's so good. I was like, nah, he's going to be a bust, bro. Here we are today. Beast Receipt checks out. But when it comes to a Kyle Fuller, who then leaves or gets cut by the Chicago Bears and then reunites himself with the Denver Broncos because DC Vic Fangio is there, and now he's the head coach of the Denver Broncos, signed him to a 1-year, $9.5 million prove-it deal. He's been a liability this year. He's been the weakest link on that back end in that defensive secondary with the Denver Broncos, although they have arguably the best secondary in the entire NFL. Tweeted that out along with the New England Patriots. He is the guy that you want to pick on. And again, it goes back to is this year's Kyle Fuller. Someone's going to get cut. I mean, you have to cut back somewhere. And if you're looking at it from a GM standpoint or a pro personnel standpoint, you look at the financial snap sheet. Again, I went to school for business management, and finance was one of the things that we had to learn. You look at the financial snap sheet, right? You look at the asset liability, right? You can kind of see it as a spreadsheet, sort of a speak. You look at the dead money, look at the roster bonus. You take all that into account. Okay. And then you have to project not only what your team is doing, but you have to project what other teams may do. So you have to have a plan A, plan B, and plan C option. If you don't have that in place, then you can't do your due diligence in saying, okay, how are we going to attack free agency without a plan? Like you're going in blind. That's the stupid way of doing it. Stupid's a strong word, but stupid is stupid. Like you can't just say, oh, this is what we need to do. No, you need to figure out what you need to do, but you also have to account for what other teams may do. So in case you go into the draft and you're looking at a player like Sauce, or you're looking at a player from Cincinnati, or you're looking at a player like DK, Darian Kendrick, or you're looking at a player like Derek Stingley Jr., right? Or you're looking at a player who I really like out of Auburn, right? McCrary, right? If you're looking at that, McCrary, who's a beast, by the way, out of Auburn. If you're looking at these types of guys and saying, hey, look, okay, so based on where we currently stand on the draft board and based on what's happening in free agency, if the cornerback market's dried up, we're not going to reach for need and sign this guy off the street, because more times than not, he's going to be coming on a more expensive deal than we could get this guy in a rookie deal. So then you have to play that game. Rookie deal, 4-year contract. This guy, maybe a 1 to 2 year contract. But hey, look, what's going to happen with Jason Verrett? Are we going to bring him back? Emmanuel Mosley signed a 2-year deal. He's obviously coming back in a contract year. So now we have to account for Emmanuel Mosley the following season. Right? You have to think 2 steps ahead, because if you don't do that, then you're going to be stuck in a bind once that comes into fruition. And you're like, oh, shoot, everyone's coming up for contracts. We don't have good depth. Not just depth. We don't have good depth. That's what we have to look at. We have to look at that and see the dynamics of how the pulse in the landscape of the entire NFL is doing before to formulate an in-depth beast analysis. And that's what I like to do, right? I like to take a wait-and-see approach, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of teams that need cornerbacks. Look, let's face it. Cornerback is a prime position for a reason. There's not too many Jalen Ramseys out there floating around. J.C. Jacksons, right? J.C. Jackson, Tre'Davious White, right? Buffalo Bills. Pat Surtain. There's no Pat Surtain in this upcoming draft, I'll tell you that. And so when you look at that and then you peel back layers of the onion to get to the core and say, hey, look, okay, cool. So we need a boundary cornerback, but how are we going to attack this? Because again, we have to look at the 2-3 year vision and see, basically looking at it as a business plan. What's our 5-year outlook? What's your game plan? What are your steps if these teams do this? How are we going to counter for this? How can we better our roster, but at the same time, not spend too much money, because we only have so much to go around? You can't feed everyone. Someone's going to be cut short. Which is why Azeez Al-Shaair or D.J. Jones could be a problem. Because Azeez Al-Shaair is playing at a first-team All-Pro level. In fact, D.J. Jones has been playing at a first-team All-Pro level for a while now. And he's not a one-trick pony. He can rush the passer from the interior just as well as he can stop the run. So the BWF grades don't lie. I like both those guys, but at the end of the day, again, we have to take into account, all right, let's prioritize exactly what our plan is. All right, what's our plan? We have to solidify the offensive line, all right? Right tackle Michael Glinchey, yeah, we picked up his 5th-year option, but is he returning after the year after that? No. Okay, so then we have to look and solidify the offensive line. Is Lincoln Tomlinson returning? I don't know. Is Alex Mack going to be retiring anytime soon? I don't know. You got to look at all these things. So it'll be interesting. Mr. TNA 2005, the least important position for Howie Roseman is linebacker. What would it be if BEASTwriter would draft for a team? The least important position? Are you asking what my least important position to draft for a team would be? Or for each team? So, Mr. TNA, by the way, this guy's from Romania, big supporter here. So if you're asking me what I would think is the least valued position in the entire NFL and starting a franchise is, if you're asking what I think that is, I can answer that, but I don't know the exact question that you're asking. But if you're asking, what are you exactly? What are you asking? What would be if BEASTwriter would draft for a team? I think you're asking what the least important position would be for me if I had to draft. I think that's your if I'm wrong, I apologize. Ask the question again. But yeah, I think that's a good question. That is the least important position. I mean, I think offensive guard. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not valued, but I think offensive guard would be one. Yeah, offensive guard, or even I would say offensive guard, because I think you can plug and play an offensive guard and save. Now, it also depends on the system that you're in. Also depends that the system that you're in, because if you're playing a zone blocking scheme, you're going to need an athletic guard. Fullback. Peter Moa says fullback. Yeah, I guess that's a given, though, because fullbacks are obsolete. So I don't even think fullbacks is an option. In fact, you know what? If we're going straight on, like, not obsolete, I was just going on basically, I mean, fullback's a dinosaur in today's NFL. I think they're non-existent, and if they are, they're like rare. Like Kyle Juszczyk is rare. Like Pat Ricard from the Baltimore Ravens is rare. How many fullbacks get drafted is rare these days. Long other days are Tommy Vardell. Touchdown Tommy. You guys remember Touchdown Tommy? Yeah. Mark Edwards. You guys remember Mark Edwards? What about William Barnum Floyd? You guys remember William Barnum Floyd? Talked about Klein Saucer from the Minnesota Vikings. What about Daryl Johnston from the Dallas Cowboys? Moose. What about Moose? Gosh. What about Mike Allstott for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? He was my favorite fullback of all time. That guy was a truck. Mike A-Train Allstott. Yeah. That made me a Bucks fan. John Lynch, if you're watching. I talked to John about his teams when he was playing on the Bucks, and I was name dropping people, and he's like, man, how do you remember this? I was like, dude, I secretly liked the Tampa Bay Bucks just as much as, I wouldn't say as much as the Niners, but they were my second team growing up, along with the Steelers. I always liked the Steelers, but Tampa Bay Bucks, I remember they had, who they have? Keyshawn Johnson, Mike Allstott, Warwick Dunn out of Florida State, number 28, that diminutive yet shifty running back. Gosh, Warwick Dunn was so underrated. Liked him. John Lynch, of course, was a great player. I loved him. Loved his hard-hitting ability. Did they have Dexter Jackson? Rondé Barber? Gosh. Obviously, Derek Brooks. We all know the Hall of Famer Derek Brooks. Who else did they have? Brad Culpepper, number 7. Or Chidi Ahanotu. Guys, remember Chidi Ahanotu? Played for the Niners. Chidi Ahanotu. Brad Culpepper. Reagan Upshaw. You guys remember Reagan Upshaw? I think he went to Cal. Reagan Upshaw. And I remember this. Literally remember this. I remember when the 49ers were looking for a defensive end, Reagan Upshaw's name popped up as a potential play for the 49ers, and John Clayton, who then worked at ESPN, was reporting this. And I was like, oh yes, if we get Reagan Upshaw, that's dope. And then I think he went to the Raiders. I was hoping Reagan Upshaw would come to the San Francisco 49ers. I do. Look it up. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think John Clayton, there's an ESPN segment. I'm visualizing this in my head that there was a question that was popped up, and possible edge rushers. Well, at the time they were called defensive ends. I don't know. They didn't have tweeners back then either. They weren't looking for a tweener. They ain't playing a 34 base defense. But they were saying, oh yeah, Reagan Upshaw is some guy that the Niners are looking into. I was like, oh yeah, we can get Reagan Upshaw, and then he went to the Raiders, I think. I was kind of sad about that. I secretly liked Roy Barker. You guys remember Roy Barker, number 92, played alongside Bryant Young and Junior Bryant. Junior Bryant was number 90. Bryant Young was number 97, of course. You guys know who Bryant Young is. But Roy Barker, secret like Tim, coming from the Minnesota Vikings. You guys remember Roy Barker? Always a double-digit sack artist. In Madden, you want to talk about Madden? I always played him in Madden. He would always pick up sacks. Like, I was like, man, this guy is a one-trick pony, but damn, he can get sacks. He can rack on sacks on sacks on sacks. Roy Barker. And then they had Chris Dolman, number 56. Oh, man, I loved Chris Dolman. Chris Dolman could play. He was also another Minnesota Viking. Chris Dolman. Hall of Famer. Chris Dolman. Yeah. I just love football. Love football. All right, here we go. DJ Morrill says, in my opinion, having Bosa and Armstead on the line is OP. Having DJ Jones there just makes it a whole lot better and a little easier to get to the quarterback. Man, having DJ Jones as the plug and play, which is good. Thank you so much, DJ, for your question. I appreciate the love. I think DJ Jones adds so much to that team. I think I would label him as the glue. If you play competitive sports, you always had that guy who was the glue player. Maybe not the most flashiest player, maybe not the most exciting player, the guy who makes the splash plays, but he's the one that keeps everything intact. And we all had that one glue player on your team, whether it be, high school sports, college, or in the NFL. And I think DJ Jones is the glue. He's the one that binds everything together. You take DJ Jones out of the equation, everything else is going to have a domino effect. I mean, honestly, can you think Javon Kinlaw is going to take up and replicate that type of production? It's fool's gold. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that. And here we are in year 3, right? He's going to be entering year 3, all right? How much longer do we have to wait to see Javon Kinlaw have a somewhat of a decent season? Even for a third-year player. Just a third-year player. I think he'll have a decent season if he has a strong third year, but he has to stay healthy. Can he stay healthy? That's a question. Bassy HD said Sapp. Yeah, Warren Sapp, number 99, one of my favorite all-time players. I loved Warren Sapp growing up. I thought he was an absolute monster. Yeah, Warren Sapp. Loved him. I loved Warren Sapp. Loved him. Joe Otto Upholstery, thank you so much for the BEASTwriter Family comment. He says, I remember Raiders played Marcus Allen at fullback and Bo at running back. Interesting. I didn't even know that. Marcus Allen, damn, I didn't know Marcus Allen even, oh yeah, he did play with Bo Jackson. How do I forget? My buddy down the street who's a Vegas Raiders fan always said that Tim Brown was better than Jerry Rice. He would always talk about Marcus Allen, had those posters, along with Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson, great. Another Auburn product, like Roger McCreary. A lot of Auburn kids, SEC. But no, I didn't know that Marcus Allen played fullback and Bo at running back. That's crazy. That's Marcus Allen at fullback, huh? That's interesting. Number 32 at fullback. That I would love to see that. I think that would have been fun. Peter Moore says, yeah, Sapp was a beast. Yeah, Sapp was a beast. Warren Sapp was a freaking beast. Argelio Lopez said Lorenzo Neal. Or Lorenzo O'Neal. I think you mean Lorenzo Neal. But I get what you're saying. I'm not going to be like, oh, you got it wrong, bro. No, I think you meant Lorenzo Neal. Yeah, beast. Lorenzo Neal. A lot of fullbacks here. I mean, I wish the fullbacks were back in the fold. They're just not, and it sucks. I wish. I'm a throwback type of a guy. I liked having throwback. Tom Rathman, throwback fullback, a throwback fullback. Say that 5 times fast. Throwback fullback. I can't do it. But yeah, how can you not like Tom Rathman? Number 44 with the eye black. Gotta love it. Wisconsin, right? Or Nebraska. No, you went to Nebraska, right? Along with Roger Craig. They both Nebraska kids. Cornhuskers. Maybe the Niners should draft just Nebraska Cornhuskers. They have good luck. Jose Alvarado. Oh, Harrison. Here we go. We got Harrison. Jose Alvarado says, which free agents the Niners need to keep and which need to be gone? What free agents can replace them? I don't know which free agents are going to be replaced because, again, we don't know that. Thank you for the question. First of all, we don't know the dynamics of how the team's going to be playing out free agency because, again, there's surprise cuts. Guys come in, guys go out. Salary cap cuts come into play. I also released my top 3 cap casualties for every single team. Beast receipts, check out. And I'll put that in the postseason. Once the season ends, I'll go ahead and make the rundown on that. But again, it's very hard to gauge because, again, there's a lot of things that can happen. A lot of guys get cut. A lot of guys come in, a lot of guys get re-signed, and then from there it's almost like, okay, well, how does free agency play a role from there, and then how does that going to affect the NFL draft based on who rises to the cream of the crop, based on positional need and exactly how the draft is supposed to play out. Is it very top heavy at the wide receiver position? Is cornerback a more positional need or a greater need because it's kind of thin at cornerback, or offensive line or defensive line? Every draft has its own identity, and I think you have to pick and choose your spots. And when you do that, heading into the draft and heading into free agency, first it's free agency, and then you want to solidify what you pick up through free agency in the draft. I think when you do that, you have a better line of thinking and mindset of knowing how you're going to attack the draft. And that's the exact thing is, anybody who comes on right now and says, oh, they should go after this guy and this guy, it's like, man, that's just a waste of your time and a waste of my time, because at the end of the day, first, the season's not even over yet. Secondly, you don't know who's going to be re-signed by their own homegrown talented players. And lastly, you don't know if there's going to be surprise cuts and how that's going to have a domino effect on the rest of the entire landscape of the entire NFL. And then you can go back and say, okay, well, these guys have been on the market. They're free to sign with any team. Let's go out and get this guy. So anybody who puts out any type of content right now in regards to free agents, it's like, it's a waste of time. Like, I wouldn't even waste my time watching it. Honestly, that's just my opinion. I mean, I value your time. I know you guys value my time. So I'm not going to waste my own time or your time by spilling BS on here that talks about basically a non-issue right now. It's a non-issue. Like, there's nothing we can really talk about right now. It's like, first of all, we don't even know how the draft order is going to be unfolding. Second of all, there's a lot of teams with multiple first round picks, and how that's going to affect the draft position, that's going to have a play on free agency as well, right? Because you have to project on who likely will be there at the time your selection is made when you're on the clock. A lot of things to think about. I've been doing this for a while, so that's why I'm just spewing off the top of my head. But hey, man, it's what makes the BWF so great, right? I don't know. That's what I think. We got some comments here on Facebook. We have DJ Jones. This guy named Israel D says, DJ Jones, I'd rather keep DJ Jones. Thank you so much. If you guys are on Facebook, which you are, in the lower right-hand corner of your screen right here, there's a subscribe button. Subscribe to your boy, and that way you'll be entered for BEASTwriter Family giveaways. A lot of comments here. Okay. Andrew Chang from NinerFans.com Facebook page says, we need DJ, so underrated. Would hate to lose Azeez, but we seem to do pretty well picking linebackers. Yeah, Andrew Chang, you're not wrong. DJ is very underrated, and we would hate to lose Azeez Al-Shaair, but we seem to do pretty well picking linebackers. Yeah, you guys do a really good job at picking linebackers, but not signing linebackers. Malcolm Smith, horrible. Israel DR says, DJ Jones. Gary Carlos from NinerFans.com. Can't forget K1 and Mostert. People want to know what NinerFans.com is. That's my own website that I started. Facebook page is NinerFans.com. All right. Jose has 250,000 followers or something like that. All right. Joseph Azeez. Okay, I get it. Gary Carlos, doesn't D Ford money drop off as well? Yes, if you look at the ramifications of how salary cap plays a role and dead money and so forth, all that plays a role, and I will do a specific video for you guys on that one. Andrew Zacharias, DJ, if you can, he's not going to be cheap. No, he won't be cheap. He's going to get Javon Hargrave money. That's the comparison. You want to look at comparables, like when you look at real estate, you look at comparables or the housing market, comparable. When it comes to the interior defensive lineman, Javon Hargrave, DJ Jones, same type of guy, same type of skill player, both going to get paid. Javon Hargrave went to Philadelphia, got paid. Bosa is a great player. Teresa Ray. Willis L. Harmon Jr. He said sign both. Eric Davis. Eric Davis is on here. Says kick rocks. So, not talking to me, talking to this guy named Sean Smith. He says kick rocks. Sean Smith comes back and says, apparently you don't know how contracts work. I don't want any drama in here on my Facebook page. My gosh. Come on, guys. It's supposed to be good vibes only here in the BWF. I'm not even going to repeat these ones. Scroll. Jim Scallett from Facebook. Thank you so much for tuning in. It says 27 million will help sign players, meaning get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes to both. Mark L. Parker from NinerFans.com Facebook page. Both. Russell Blanchard from NinerFans.com Facebook page says, I think you missed the point. It's always about money. I'm talking for the love of the game. Take it what it's worth. Not talking to me, talking to someone else. Miguel Gillen says, Azeez, DJ is hurt too often. These comments are gosh, you guys are so mean to each other. Johnny Escobar, to Bradley Houston. They spread money throughout the years and signed most and got one of the best in the business, the money man. DJ Jones is a must. Sign DJ, he is a beast. He plugs up the middle for us. I like it. EJ Quintanilla. Eric Davis, the NFL is fake. Tampa Bay has an overload of big money players on defense, almost not to mention any offensive position. The Rams are overloaded with big money contracts. Okay. Chris Galding, Sean Cook, and the cap is set to go up by 20 million or more. Wow, there's a lot of comments in here. Our secondary is the problem, nothing else. Paul G from NinerFans.com. Ricky Martinez, he also says, Michael Smith, DJ is a beast when he's on the field, but he's not on the field enough for how much money he will get. I think you can put DJ Jones in that category as a 3-down player. I like DJ Jones. All right, well, that'll be it to wrap up this YouTube live stream. I hope you liked what I had to say. Thank you, everyone, for the super chat and super stickers. I really appreciate it. If you're watching on Twitter, you guys can also send me a tip on Twitter through your Venmo account, which is already linked on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in on this wacky Wednesday. I'm going to run my BEASTwriter Family game grades, get my workout in, and then double down on those gains coming back. Might do another YouTube live stream later on tonight, depending on how much work I get done. If not, I'll be back tomorrow, so stay tuned for more episodes of the BWF as we keep things hot here in the BEASTwriter family. Thank you so much for tuning in. I had a fun time. BEASTwriter out.